What's going on, YouTube? R to the double E dash to the Z-O-N coming at you once again. I'm coming with two videos this time, and they're going to be the top games on two more consoles. I had a lot of subscribers that liked the last video with the GameCube games, top 10 GameCube games that I constantly go back to, and I had a few that I requested if I would do it for other consoles. So yeah, for sure, let's do it, man. I'm here to do what you guys want me to do, so long as I enjoy it. Let's be real. But yeah, man. So we're gonna do two today. First off, I figured, man, let's just start with the GOAT. Let's start with the almighty, divinely crafted and given to us by the gods, Nintendo 64. My favorite console of all time. Console that I've on many an occasion have made a very compelling because it's based on facts, case for it being the best console of all time. The greatest console of all time with the greatest impact the industry's ever seen. Now, what you need to know is the GameCube video, for those of you who saw it, or maybe you didn't see it, it was a top 10. Top 10 games I constantly go back to on the GameCube. And while I'm trying to keep these videos at top 10, you got to understand, man, the N64, even though it had a small library overall, I have a massive collection for. Okay, I have 66 physical cartridges, not to mention games that I have on virtual consoles on the Wii, on the Wii U, Switch Online. Matter of fact, over this weekend, I bought one of the games I constantly go back to on N64. I bought the enhanced version on Switch. I had part one, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, from over a year ago, and I finally bit the bullet and said, you know what, it's not going to go any lower than the $20 they have it at. Had like a $2.25 discount on Nintendo Switch, so I got it for like $17.50 or something like that. Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, and I must say, bro, before we get into this, the enhancements, just like on part one, they shine through graphically on the Switch. Turok 2 has never looked better, controlled better, and they just went in like hard with all the quality of life fixes. They really put a lot of love into that port because it's not just enhanced visually, but you have, just like in part one, the option to go back and forth between PC soundtrack or the N64 soundtrack, and a bunch of other fixes. I'm not doing a review on that right now. I'm just saying I bought that on the Switch. So I have physical carts. I have 66 total, and the ones I've bought digitally, because I either never owned them as a young man when I first had the 64, or I had them and traded them away or did something stupid. So I have games and games and games when it comes to the N64. So I cannot make just the top 10 for the N64. So the N64 will be the one exception. It'll be a top 20. So right now we're going to do the top 20 games I constantly go back to on Nintendo 64. Whenever I hook up my physical N64 that I showed off in that video, and I physically play with an N64 controller on N64 hardware, not emulation, none of that, just traditional, old school, the realness, you know what I'm saying? These are the top 20 games. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the GameCube games. So this video may be a lengthy one because we got 20 games to go through. It's going to be just me showing you off the games, no particular rank. There is a favorite of all time on the N64, which you guys should know me by now. You should know what game that is. If you don't, you'll know in this video. But as far as everything else, there's no rank. Just going to go through them, show them off, give you a quick description and my memories and thoughts on these games. So no particular order. We're going to start off right off the bat. Rush 2 Extreme Racing USA. Now, this is the sequel to San Francisco Rush, which I also own physically and through emulation. And I love San Francisco Rush. It's amazing. It's my favorite racer on the N64 as far as traditional car racers, But the sequel did everything better, vastly. Graphics, pretty much the same engine. So graphically, it's pretty much the same, maybe a little bit better. But the track selection, you're not just in, the first one you were in San Francisco, so it was just tracks from around San Francisco. This is Rush 2 Extreme Racing USA. So you got Hawaii, you got Las Vegas, you got Los Angeles, you got New York Uptown, New York Downtown. I think you got San Francisco as well. You got one, crazy out there track called Alcatraz, and it's there's loops and corkscrews and all this. It's awesome. And they also have a stunt track where you literally, the track just has, divots and valleys and bumps, speed bumps and ramps and all that, and a half pipe. And you just go crazy on that track trying to get as many rolls and flips and, as you can without blowing your car up. And you get points based on that. But the overall racing in the game is fantastic. It's that arcade racing action from the 90s that you would go, into an arcade like Arcade Odyssey, or back then Flippers, which was the shit, or any mall that had, most malls back then had a major arcade right in the center of them, and all the best games were in there: Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, the Jurassic Park, light gun games, the Terminator, all that. Turtles games were in there, and you would find a San Francisco Rush and a Cruising USA and things like that. You would actually sit in the car and freaking race. This brought that all back and brought it home. 4-player split screen for 4-player multiplayer ability. Great fun, man. I really enjoyed this game. Everything from the soundtrack, the driving mechanics. I still have, man. One of these days I'm going to bring it out and show it to you guys. I still have my Mad Catz steering wheel and pedals for games like this, man. So yeah, bro. I always go back to Rush 2 Extreme Racing USA, man. I love that. I love that franchise. After that, we got Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. This is my favorite Star Wars game on the Nintendo 64, and truly, to this day, one of my favorite all-time Star Wars games across any console in any generation. Just a fantastic early launch game, not launch, but launch window game for the N64. I think it was November or December of '96, like right before Christmas of that year. The Stormtrooper was even featured on the box of the N64, if you guys remember. If you guys ever, like, you can go Google it right now. Google Nintendo 64 box, and the back of it has a Stormtrooper and Mario and, you know, characters like that. This game was a phenomenal Star Wars game. One of the things I loved about it the most is that it mixed so many different genres of game. So you had, like, for example, you had you could go into first person when you were on foot missions where you played as the actual Dash Rendar, which is the name of the title not the title, but the main character of this game. He's like a Han Solo type mercenary, kind of same kind of role. Whenever you play his levels on foot with his blaster, you can go into first person view, you can go into third person view, you can go into overhead view. So it really played around a lot with the camera, showing off the N64's ability early in its life to basically show the player this is 3-dimensional gameplay. You can see the action, observe the action, interact with the action from a myriad of different angles, giving you that immersive 3D feel that we never had before. So yeah, you have on-foot missions with your blaster. You have a vehicle combat where you're in your ship, the Outrider, or you're on a suit bike racing through Beggar's Canyon, knocking suit jockeys off their bikes and trying to get away, racing over the Zarlak pits. You had, like I said, vehicle combat like that, like the Outriders, the suit bikes. There's the Battle of Hoth level where you're playing in your snow speeders. There were vehicle-based missions where you're actually controlling the vehicle, and other vehicle-based missions where the vehicle's going on its own and you're like in the laser turrets firing off at TIE fighters. Such a freaking phenomenal game. The authentic official Star Wars music and soundtrack is there. Takes you to a lot of the locales in the Star Wars universe, and you get to come across and tangle with legendary iconic characters. You come across Luke Skywalker, you battle Boba Fett and the Slave One in everybody's favorite level. I love that level. A lot of people hate it. Gal Spaceport. It's a long level, man. To play just through that level alone, bro, it's a good 30 to 45 minute ordeal just to play through that level, straight up, man. I mean, it's massive. And it really just showed levels like that in this game, showed how much more expansive game worlds could become with the power of the N64. So, yeah, man, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, I constantly go back to. I love it, man. I'm still trying to download a proper ROM for it, for my emulator for RetroArch, because the couple that I've downloaded so far, I've downloaded the American and European versions. And I don't know if it's an emulator or ROM issue, or if it's the fact that I'm trying to play with an Xbox Series X controller. But when I'm trying to move the left joystick to just move my snow speeder around, it moves it, but it also changes the camera angles like randomly all over the place. So, I'm already looking into getting an N64 USB controller, actual N64 controller to play my N64 games on my PC, the ones that I have on my emulator. So, but yeah, I constantly go back to this, man, and it has such a nostalgia for me, such great memories from the early days of the N64. So it's a given. Every time I connect the N64, I'm popping in Shadows of the Empire for sure. Up next, I have about 5 or 6 wrestling games on the N64. But the one that I constantly go back to every single time I hook up my N64, it's not No Mercy, which is acclaimed as the best of all of them. It's not World Tour, WCW NWO World Tour, or Nitro, or Backstage Assault, or WWF Warzone. It's WCW NWO Revenge. This to me is the best of the bunch. Even though No Mercy does have some advancements over this one that this one does not have, this one had my favorite company and my favorite roster. And it had so many match types, so many wrestlers, actual pay-per-view arenas. It had everything, man. You had all the greats, man. You had Sting, Hogan, Goldberg, Macho Man Randy Savage, Diamond Dallas Page, Roddy Piper, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. You had Raven and his flock. You had the Steiner brothers. You had everybody was in there, dude. Everybody. The only one who wasn't in there, unfortunately, was Ric Flair, because he had just returned to WCW right after this game was completed. So when they were making this game, he wasn't on the roster, so they didn't have the rights to put him in there. But other than that, it has everybody, and it has while WWF No Mercy has a create a character mode, which is awesome. awesome, and it's one of the things that puts that game over this one as far as overall quality. I can admit that, but I go back to this one. But one of the things this has that's amazing is you could change and edit the look of your character as far as their gear and their clothes. So let's say Monday night, you were watching Monday Night Nitro, and Sting left the Wolfpack. He was no longer red and black, but he joined another faction that was black and blue. Just an example. You could change his face paint to black and blue. You could change the Scorpion on his tights to blue. You could change around the look of the characters and their gear to match current scenarios or even your own made-up scenarios. So that was phenomenal, man. It was a great wrestling game, bro. These are the greatest wrestling games of all time. The N64 had the greatest wrestling games of all time. You've heard me say that time and time again. You've heard pretty much anybody who was gaming at that time say that ad nauseum. And it's just true. It's the N64 wrestling games had the best control engine that to this day, if they made a wrestling game and used this engine that they used all the way back in 97, 98, it would be the best wrestling game around. That's why the WWE 2K games have, for the most part, been shit lately, for the last couple of years, man, because the gameplay engine doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like what you watch on TV when you're watching actual wrestling. Whereas this game, especially for that time, the presentation was spot on. Their attention to detail, like when you picked Kevin Nash, who's a 7'1", 7'2" almost, a giant. When he would come to the ring in real life, he would step right over the top ropes, man, to just give you that like, damn, like I'm bigger than you. In the game, he steps over the top rope. The lucha libre or the cruiserweights, the younger, lighter, high-flying wrestlers, had a tendency to have a lot of energy and they would come running to the ring during their entrance and they would slide in the ring. They do that in this game. The cruiserweights can springboard off the middle and top ropes and do moonsaults on the fly. Diamond Dallas Page, his famous move, the Diamond Cutter, which some of you guys know today as the RKO or Randy Orton. A little bit different, but still. Before there was Randy Orton, there was Diamond Dallas Page. He was catching motherfuckers out of anywhere, out of nowhere, out of the blue, in a myriad of different ways with the Diamond Cutter. Well, in this game, you could hit them with the Diamond Cutter, regular. You could send them to the ropes, and when they come back, you pop them up and hit them with the Diamond Cutter. Or you can literally pick them up on the top, or sit them on the top turnbuckle and do a Diamond Cutter off the top turnbuckle. So their attention to detail was just fucking phenomenal, and it was the most authentic wrestling experience, man. To this day, this is still more authentic than so many of the brand new, WWE games that are out today. Going on from there, I'm sorry about that. Just had a pop up on the screen. We're going on to BanjoKazooie. Not quite possibly, more likely than not, the greatest 3D action platformer on the N64 and of that generation, man. BanjoKazooie just took what Super Mario 64 introduced and just built on it, man. And it's just a phenomenal platformer with an amazingly memorable soundtrack and music. I am not positive because it's rare, so I'm not sure, but it just feels like David Wise, the composer who made the music for the Donkey Kong Country series, memorable soundtrack, and I believe did the soundtrack for Pilot Wing 64 also, which is just great music. I feel like he did this because the music is just so memorable, so catchy. The minute you hear, the main theme or the theme inside Gruntilda's lair, or any one of the different worlds you go to, they just stick immediately. They latch onto your brain and you're humming that shit all day. Controls were fucking tight, bro, spot on. The dual dynamic where you're controlling both these characters, Banjo and Kazooie, the bird and the bear. I mean, you're walking around as the bear, but Kazooie's in his backpack, and if you need to, run up hills, you do a move where basically Kazooie pops her legs out of the fucking backpack, and Banjo's just resting on her back, and she walks all over the place. Kazooie can spit and fart out eggs. Banjo, can strike, can roll. I mean, they had so many moves. When you had the red feathers and you can fly, you could do the beak bomb, which was just like a homing missile attack that I used to spam the shit out of. And it was great, man. It was your traditional 3D platformer that took you to all the traditional worlds: the ice world, the lava world, an underground world, a swamp, a forest, all these, like fairy tale locations. Awesome. Graphics were great. Gameplay was just top notch, and it's one of those games that whenever I do look at my N64, I go back to, and I played damn near through the whole thing. And for those of you who play this, it's not a short game. It's a good, I'd say, 20 to 30 hour affair. If you're going to do everything, collect all the jiggies, collect all the music notes, all the Jinjos and all that. And it plays very much kind of like Mario 64, except what this game did that was so great, that was an evolution of what Mario 64 did, just to, to piggyback off that point about it building off the foundation that the great Mario 64 set. Mario 64, you had to collect power stars. There were 6 in each level, six in each world. And when you would find the power star, he'd get it, he'd do his little celebration, peace, and boom, it would take you out of that world. And to go get more, you had to jump back into the painting. Well, in this game, there's 10 jiggies, puzzle pieces in every world that you have to find. When you would find one, he'd do his little celebration, and then it would just let you continue on hunting for the others. It didn't bring you out of the world and have to load back in. So that was one of the many evolutions on Mario 64's formula that this game had. And it's just such a fucking epic game. This was one of Rare's best, man. This was Rare showing Nintendo at that specific time. We're just as good as you, Nintendo. We're just as good, if not better, at making certain kind of games. And that's why Rare was Nintendo's dream developer, man. They made the N64 what it is. After that, we got Turok 2 Seeds of Evil. Just like I said, I just purchased this on the Switch this weekend for like $17. Awesome game, bro. But this is the original. And I remember how much I wanted this game, how much I was fiending for it, and how much everybody was at a fever pitch waiting for it. The Christmas of, I want to say 97 or 98. Excuse me, one of those 2 years. Because it was heavily advertised in GamePro magazine, Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine, Nintendo Power magazine, all the video game magazines. You know, and like I said, this was back in the day, the infancy of the internet. So it was America Online, but people in chat rooms, if you can remember what chat rooms were always talking about it, hyping it up, and everybody was waiting for it. And I believe it was delayed a few times because they basically took what Turok 1 did, and Turok 1 was fucking impressive, bro. Turok 1 for the first-person shooter genre on consoles was revolutionary. It was right there with GoldenEye as far as like, oh shit, these games are possible on a console, not just PC. But it had these massive, big, open levels that you could get lost in. And Turok 2 took those levels and made them even bigger. But again, they evolved. They said, all right, people were getting lost in these levels. Let's make them bigger, but let's segment areas off of them through warp stations. You know, so I can warp here. I go through a certain amount of that level. I find another warp gate. It takes me to another part of it. But the worlds were massive. And there were more objectives to do in the worlds. Like in part 1, you just had to find, the 6 level keys that were in that level to proceed to the next 2 levels. And this one, you need to find the keys, but you might have to rescue captured children or captured soldiers. You might have to destroy a certain number of soul gates. Or you might have to battle some Sisters of Despair or other kind of demons. Depending on the world. All the worlds are varied in their look and their aesthetic and their atmosphere. Graphically, it's very, very impressive, especially for the time. Still holds up to this day as far as, this is a 64 game and we're fucking 20-something years after that. So it doesn't hold up to today's standards, but it's not like playing this game is ugly. Like you're playing it and you're like, damn, I can see why this was a fucking stunner back in the day. What else did I want to say about it? Nah, man, just great game, great soundtrack, great controls, amazing list of weapons. Fucking the weapon diversity is one of the best. This game has better weapons than any Doom or any Duke Nukem or any of those first-person shooters of the day. The weapons were creative. Like Cerebral Bore was one of them. It was basically fire off a drill that would home like a seeker to the enemy's or the target's head and just start drilling into their head, and you would see cerebral brain fluid pouring out of them and them running around screaming until their head exploded. I mean, that shit was awesome, dude. And on 64 bits, man, back in the day, right? It was awesome, dude. Yeah, I got it the Christmas of that year, 97 or 98, and everybody was just waiting for it, dude. It was hyped. Next, we got Snowboard Kids. This game surprised the hell out of me, as I'm sure it did a lot of people. It was developed by Atlas, of all people, and it kind of feels, this game feels when I played it, and still to this day when I play it, it was never meant to come to the States. It feels like it was made for Japan only. And I guess they kind of, by the reception they got over there, they kind of knew. I mean, this is what I think. I don't know. I didn't research this, but it's just how it feels in the presentation and just the overall design of the game. They got such a huge reception. They're like, oh, what the fuck? Let's send it over to the States and see if the people like it in the States. And it was a gamble that paid off because it has a huge cult following. It's basically Mario Kart on snowboards, which is awesome. It's a combat racer on snowboards. You got some awesome track design, very cutesy, cartoony look. Awesome soundtrack, memorable music as well, and it surprised the hell out of me. I remember I played this, if I'm not mistaken. I had a friend in middle school who rented it on a whim, and I used to sleep over his house a lot. And one of those Fridays I was sleeping over, he busted it out, we started playing, and it was like, holy shit, this is fun as fuck. And you know, it had great level design. Like I said, some tracks were on snow, some were on grass, some were in the desert. It was like extremely, like, you know, over the top. You could never snowboard on these surfaces, but hell, it's a fucking cartoon. It's a game. Let's have fun, you know. And it had you know, some funny ass like items, like attack items. Like there's one that's it looks like 3 pans. And when you select that, when you get that and activate it, the 3 pans go up in the air and they just come down and just, you know, squish all the other riders, giving you time to like go by them. You could freeze them, you could trip them up. There's one that's annoying as shit, that it's a parachute. That if you hit somebody with that shit, boom, they go up in the air and they slowly descend on a parachute while everybody's just passing them by. And every lap, you had to race downhill, down the course to the very end where there was a ski lift. And the best part was when you guys were all like in a close race going to the end to the ski lift. It's like, yo, whoever gets there first is gonna boom, go through the gate, and everybody else is just gonna crash into it, bounce back, and have to get up and try to go in again. And so you're fighting to see who can get in first. Oh, just a freaking great game. A lot of awesome memories with this game, bro. Next, another gem from Rare, Blast Corps. This is another one of those games that came out of left field with a completely insane premise and story and just theme, but it just works. It's basically, if I had to describe it, if I had to try to like genre-ize it, fuck, what would I call it, man? It's a vehicle-based puzzle, a vehicle-based puzzler. And what I mean by that is you got to play in a bunch of different vehicles, trucks, bikes, mechs, even robots, and with these vehicles, use their primary weapons and primary advantages to clear a path by destroying buildings and landmarks and all that, be it buildings, houses, farms, bridges, you know, whatever. Anything that's in the way of this rolling nuclear tanker that's basically on a straight course. It can't turn, it can't stop. If it crashes into anything, it'll detonate and it'll be nuclear winter for the whole world. Completely fucking insane, because what if it's going in that straight line and then there's no more land there? You know, like, but it didn't matter. It was great, bro. And then there was a couple scenarios like that in the game, and you would have to use a crane to move, like, you know, pieces of like road and put them down and create a bridge so it can go across. And it was crazy, bro, crazy. But it was just a fun game. The vehicles you would use all were unique and had just crazy abilities. Like I remember this Backlash. It's basically like a dump truck. It looks like a Tonka dump truck. And the strength of this vehicle was to go full speed at the obstacle you were trying to destroy, and at the last second, hard turn, so you would like drift, and that's why they call it Backlash. Swipe it with the back, the metal bed or the metal container of the dump truck, and just ram through it. They had another one that was basically a bulldozer, and that one was just, you know, run right through stuff. They had this little one called the Ballista, I think it was, and it's like a 2-wheel bike with missile launchers on the side, and that one you had to collect rockets for so you could fire the rockets off and use them. You had one that was basically, it looked like a little RC car, and that one, the whole point of that one was to go up to a high vantage point and go full speed, use the rocket boost that it has, so you gain speed, and then go off a mountain or off a hill, and you go airborne, and you just like bomb down on the buildings. And then you had the mechs like J-Bomb, which is the main one that you see here on the game's label. And he had these big giant rocket packs on his back, and you would just basically fly up in the air, get above a building, and then you would press the B button, he would flip and come down and stomp down on the entire building. And the freaking colorful explosions in this game, the visual aesthetic was just fucking phenomenal, man. So it's just a fun game I constantly go back to because it's just mindless mayhem, but it's not just mindless, because there's a lot of puzzle solving in this game, and you got to do it quick before that tanker hits, you know, whatever's in front of it. So awesome. Oh man, there's another rare gem right here again, and a classic. Probably the most revolutionary first-person shooter of all time. You know, most likely arguable, but I think it is. GoldenEye 007, man. Y'all already know about. I don't have to say much about this. Revolutionary game from the 64-bit era. This was the one. It was this and then Turok, but this did it first. This is the one that showed. Because I believe this was 97, and I think Turok was 98. Or they might have both been in 98, but Turok was after. This was the one this one basically came out of left field, because everybody was knowing that Rare was working on a 007 game, but did not know that it was going to be this fucking great. Because nobody had been convinced up until that point that a first-person shooter could be done successfully on a console until this came around. And so this, man, It followed the title movie 007 GoldenEye, or GoldenEye 007 to the T. So levels were based on locales and scenarios within that movie, which was a great, fun action movie back in the day, 007 movie. But it also had, like, man, first of all, the graphics for that time were incredible. The weapon variety, all the gadgets that 007 is known for, like I've said in previous videos, he's got his watch laser that can be used to, like, burn off locks, you know, on a door or on a grate. He had, I believe, I don't know if in this game I think you had the little micro grenades. I'm not really sure about that. But you had his traditional PP7, the little gun that he has, and then also you could put the silencer on it. So you had the classic pew, pew, you know, like in the fucking movie. You had AK-47s. And you could also dual wield. So you could have two weapons at once. And then the multiplayer mode was just where it was at. The campaign was awesome, don't get me wrong, but the multiplayer mode was where it was at, bro. With this game, this is the game, along with other, like, the Mario Party series and the Smash Brothers game and other things like that, Wave Race and all, but this, in the wrestling games for sure, but this was the one that you really remember having a sleepover with 2 or 3 of your homeboys, and during summer, having whoever's mom's house it was order pizza and Mountain Dew and Coke and all that, and y'all would stay up till the fucking sun came up playing 4-player deathmatch, bro. Slappers only, kill the man with the golden gun, you know, all that shit, bro. And it was just awesome, dude. So I always go back to this. Again, like, you know me, I don't have anybody in this house that plays games. You know, my sons don't live here anymore. They live in Delaware, so I can't, you know, and then it wasn't their time, so they wouldn't really be, you know, they play it for a couple of rounds and they get bored. So I play the campaign and I enjoy it. But I think there's a way, I think you could do bots, if I'm not mistaken. So I could always go back to the multiplayer. But I like the campaign as well. Game is just phenomenal, man. Up next, another rare gem. Rare just keeps it coming, though. Diddy Kong Racing. Again, this was another situation where Rare one-upped Nintendo. Y'all know me, bro. Super Mario 64 is the greatest. I think Super Mario 64 is one of the greatest games of all time. Though Banjo is a better game overall, I don't consider Banjo in the same high esteem that I consider Super Mario 64. But BanjoKazooie basically is a better overall game, you know, top to bottom than Mario 64. Rare, you know, outdid them. They saw what Nintendo did and said, that's genius. Now we know what direction to go in. We know what foundation to build off of. Let's make a better game. And they did. Well, they did it again. Mario Kart 64 was phenomenal. Diddy Kong Racing was better. Diddy Kong Racing is a kart racer, just like Mario Kart. This game, bro, oh my God, the music, the characters not so much, because, yeah, this had Banjo before BanjoKazooie was made, so we didn't know who the fuck Banjo was. This had Conker before Conker's Bad Fur Day was made, so we didn't know who the fuck Conker was. We didn't care. I remember the little turtle Tip Tup. He was one of my favorite characters. I don't know where the fuck he came from. Nobody knows where any of these characters came from. Nobody cares. But Diddy Kong's in there. But the characters that are memorable are those fucking cheating ass bosses. The music from pretty much every fucking level is just that rare magic. And it's a kart racer, like I said, but it's not just a kart racer. You can use the kart. You can use planes. You can use hovercrafts. And you can have a mixed match of different players on different crafts, all racing at the same time on the same track. On top of that, it was an adventure game, not just a kart racer, because it had an open world, like a hub world at the beginning, that you were trying to save by going to these different tracks and racing and collecting the different power balloons. And then you would face the boss of that zone. And once you beat them, you got a piece of, if I'm not mistaken, it was a piece of Wizpig, the main boss, the main bad guy, his amulet. And when that was complete, the cave at the very center of the island that had Wizpig's face will become complete and colored, and then you would be able to face Wizpig himself. But man, not only was it a phenomenal kart racer with just the dynamic of using the different vehicles, but racing through the same track on 3 different vehicles is a different experience with every vehicle. And there's shortcuts and different advantages that each vehicle has on certain tracks. But it had a multiplayer mode that wasn't just racing, there was a battle mode like Mario Kart. Oh my God, was that shit fun. And it wasn't just battle like, okay, you know, the balloons. No, there was like 3 different modes, if I remember. There was one where you had to collect eggs and bring them back to your nest, you know, and fill it up before the other characters did, and you're fucking each other up while you're doing it. There was your typical battle mode. I don't think it was balloons like Mario Kart was, because I haven't done it in a while, but there was an actual like combat battle mode, and then there was another gameplay mode. They had a fucking full fleshed out multiplayer and a full fleshed out adventure kart racer. It was just fucking phenomenal. And so every time I hook the 64 up, I go back to this. I also have this in emulation right here on my laptop, and I also have it, if I'm not mistaken, on my Wii U Virtual Console. Or it could have been the Wii, I don't remember. But I have it on one of them, if not both. I love Diddy Kong Racing, man. And it's a game that's crying for a fucking sequel in 2022 on the Switch, or in this time, 2023 even, but in this modern time. Fuck yeah, man, that'll be amazing. Next, bro, the GOAT, Super Mario 64. Y'all already know what this did. Y'all already know how this changed the landscape of gaming forever. Forever. The gaming world was never the same once Nintendo dropped that fucking amazing machine and this launch title. This is like when God breathed on Adam and breathed the breath of life into him. That pile of dirt was never the same. That's what Mario 64 and the N64 did to the video game industry. Breathed a whole new fucking life into it, man. That now this shit is 3D. Now we can go anywhere. We're not just going left and right, up and down. We're going all over the place, changing the camera, looking at the world from a myriad of different perspectives, and seeing every fucking detail that the developers put in there for us to find. Bro, the controls on this, Mario's never controlled better. Not even today. Not even today in Odyssey, where it's fucking awesome. There's just something about the way he moves in Mario 64. It's the right amount of weight to each movement, the right amount of quickness, the right degree of precision in every movement of the stick, and the response on the screen, no latency, the way he moves and reacts to every control input that you make in this game. It's fucking fantastic, dude. It's the cream of the crop, the top of the pile, bro. It cannot be overcome. Galaxy had great controls. They're not better than 64. Sunshine, once they fixed it on the 35th anniversary collection, for me on the Switch, has fucking phenomenal controls. They don't touch 64. And Odyssey's controls are amazing, but there's just something about the way he controls in Mario 64. And the whole dynamic, bro, of just running around the way Nintendo designed this game. I mean, it's as if they had been making 3D games forever, and this is the first time anybody did it. Bro, that medal at the beginning where you start off in was a perfect tutorial area. They just gave you a quick text tutorial of how to maneuver the camera, and that was it. They let you go. And then you started exploring that medal, and you saw that you can climb on trees and jump off them, that you could jump in the water and swim and go underwater and come to the surface. You saw that you can, jump at a wall and kick off of it. You saw that you started discovering all the different moves Mario had at his disposal without them having to tell you how to do them. And then you walked into that castle and you saw all the different doors, and then every door had a number on it, and you started learning very quickly that that's the number of stars you have to have, and if you don't have that number, you can't go in that door. But then there was this one door that just had a star with no number, and you instinctively knew, all right, let me go in there. Oh shit, the door opened. What's this painting in here? And then when you got close to the painting, you saw it ripple, and that let you know, wait a minute, that's not a wall, there's something there. And you jumped into it, and you went into the painting, all of a sudden you were in a whole new fucking world, and thus the game begins. That shit is Nintendo are the gangsters, bro. And this is the game that started. I always go back to this, man. You will never see me connect my N64 without, at some point in that session of that week or 2 weeks that I'm playing the N64, or however long I feel like playing it, you will not go that entire time without hearing, ding, it's me, Mario. That shit is happening. That shit is happening for sure, man. Next. 1080 snowboarding, bro. 1080 snowboarding, the original. I got the sequel on GameCube, although I do need to get another copy because it got cracked, so I need to take care of that. But 1080 snowboarding, man, this was a phenomenal extreme sports game. Extreme sports, skating, snowboarding, biking, all that. It's just phenomenal, man. Sponsor for this game, I remember, was Tommy Hilfiger, which back then, during that time, was a very, very popular clothing line. Like, I'm talking about, it was Tommy Hilfiger, Polo, and Nautica. Those were the clothing lines that were popular during my day that the kids had to have. If you weren't rocking at least one of those shirts from one of those companies, you were looked down upon, straight up. They sponsored this game, so Tommy Hilfiger advertisements are everywhere. They're wearing the clothes in the game, the characters. But it's just a snowboarding game, but it's graphically so superior to, and I love the games I'm about to mention. I'm not slamming on them. But on the PlayStation, you had Cool Boarders. That was the snowboarding series on the PlayStation. Cool Boarders 1, 2, and 3. And they were phenomenal games. But the controls, the graphics, everything about 1080 was a step above. The fucking music was fucking catchy. It was gangster. The track design going downhill, the reflections on the lake as you were snowboarding around, down around the mountain that was by the lake. The sunset, the look of the sunset in one track and then snowing on the other track. The draw distance you were able to see on the N64. I mean, now today we know that it was pretty horrible. But for that time, it made the PlayStation 1 look like it couldn't do shit. You know, this game was just fucking awesome. The only thing with this game is that it has a learning curve, meaning to pull off the tricks. It's not just, jump up in the air and just hold the joystick in one direction and spin that way. No, man. If you want to do like a 180, you got to do like you jump up in the air and then down on the joystick, C down, C right, or something. You know, like a combination. It's like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter moves to pull off that shit, which gets demanding and hard, but you know, it also gets you quick and starts to get you adapted to this way of playing. So when you pull off a fucking beast trick, you feel like, damn, I did that shit, and it looks so fucking amazing. It was just a great fucking game, man. Next, FZero X. FZero X was the sequel to F-Zero from Super Nintendo. And one of the, probably, I'd say it's, man, the N64 has so many good racers, I can't put a number on it, but it's definitely one of my top racers on the N64. And top racers of all time. F-Zero X is probably the fastest game, like speed-wise, frame rate-wise, on the N64. It's a consistent 60, if I'm not mistaken. 60 or I think it was 60. I think it was consistently 60 frames per second. Because of that, the graphics did suffer a little bit compared to other N64 games, but it still looks phenomenal. Stage design is great. You know, the track design, the sense of speed in this game. You know, of course, GameCube took it up to a whole other level. But for the time being, this game, again, I'll do another comparison. The Wipeout series on PlayStation. Wipeout was another great futuristic racer like F-Zero. Didn't look as good, and it wasn't as fast, bro. Like the frame rate in this shit was solid, locked. It didn't. I don't ever recall seeing slowdown in this game. Track design is ridiculous. Loop the loops, corkscrews, inverted loops. You know, straight drops, crazy air jumps. 30 racers on the track at once, and you have to manage the speed, getting to the front of the pack while also trying to limit the amount of damage you take from other riders and from the tracks, the walls on the track. Because if your machine gets a certain amount of damage, it will explode. It will blow up and you'll be retired and you'll lose a life. You have like 3 lives. There's a recharge zone toward the end of every lap that you can go through to try to get some energy back. Because once the second lap hits, you have boost power. So you can press the B button to get an extra boost and go even faster, but that takes energy from your vehicle. So you have to manage all that while you're racing. It's just fucking great, man. It's great. It's challenging. It's nonstop action, bro. And like I said, it's F-Zero, man. And we're dying for another one today. It's been 22 years, I think, since F-Zero GX on the GameCube. But this is F-Zero X on the 64, and it's one that I continually go back to. And the soundtrack, oh Lord, the soundtrack on this game is not to be fucked with. It's one of those, like I talk about in other videos, that I'll look up on YouTube and just bump in the background because I want to hear the music. It's so good. Next, another great Star Wars game, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Now, this started the whole Rogue Squadron series that was continued on the GameCube with Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader and Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike. But this is the one that started it all. And to this day, man, if you play this on your N64, and with the expansion pack, especially like I have, the extra 4 megabytes of RAM, bro, the graphical detail in this game. This was LucasArts and Factor 5. Those studios really knew how to get the juice out of the N64. Like every last ounce of power that system had was displayed in these games. From the sound design, the attention to detail, every little like component and gizmo and all that on all the ships were visible. The actual level design, how far into the distance you could see. And even though there is pop-up, because again, back in the day, technology was limited. Some games today have pop-up, but the pop-up was managed so smoothly. It wouldn't just like pop up, boom, boom, boom. It would just gradually come in as you were getting there. You know, as you're flying forward. The dog fights, whether in space or above famous locations like Beggar's Canyon, Tatooine. All these different places from Star Wars. It's just a phenomenal vehicle combat shooter. And you get to fly in all these Star Wars ships that we all know and love from the movies: the X-wings, the B-wings, the Y-wings. I believe there's a code. If I don't remember correctly, but if I do remember correctly, there's a code to use the Millennium Falcon. There's even a crazy code that lets you use like a 1964 Cadillac or something. There's some car there. But also, there's an experimental ship that doesn't show up in any other Star Wars movie or comics that I know of, the V-Wing. And it was a dope ship. So it was like, and the missions were really good, super fun. And it was an amazing game. Single player experience, unfortunately. But if you're a Star Wars fan, bro, you're always gonna go back to this one, man. Because this will get you in the mood to go and fucking play the ones on the GameCube, which is just continuing the greatness. But this is where it started, man. And I always go back to Rogue Squadron on my N64. Coming up next, this is the one I was telling y'all that's number one for me. I don't care. This is number one, my favorite game of all time across any console. But if we're talking N64, especially N64, that is Pilot Wing 64. I know all the games I could choose. Every time I say that, people are like, "Oh, that's cool." Man, what the fuck is Pilot Wing? I just love this game, man. I love this game. Matter of fact, no bullshit. Today's Monday, September 26th. Saturday night, this past 2 days ago, I stayed up all night till about 7:30 in the morning. Because I want to say like around 1 to 2 in the morning, I was on my laptop playing, downloading ROMs and playing, games through emulation. And I started downloading a bunch of N64 games, and I was like, how the hell did I not download these games the first time I went through and downloaded N64 games? Pilot was not one of them. Pilot was I always had. But I was like, all right, I'm done downloading to play stuff. I played Rampage World Tour. I played a couple other games. And then I was like, I'm going to hit Pilot Wings up, man. And I saw that I hadn't perfect scored, or I haven't gotten gold or silver on every mission in this because I hadn't played it as much on PC as I had played it on my N64. So I'm like, I got to do this. So I was there till 7:30 in the morning playing that motherfucker, dude, trying to unlock every Birdman stage. So I had to unlock Cannonball and then go and get silver or above on every Cannonball and unlock Birdman for Everfrost. Then I went to skydiving and had to get gold or silver in every single skydive to unlock Birdman for Crescent Island and so on and so forth. I went through the entire game. I love the game, bro. This game, it just gives you, even to this day, even though it's aged, a lot of these games have aged because we're fucking 20-something years down the pipeline, you know what I'm saying? It's like we're far removed from this generation. So the games are supposed to age. And not even all that greatly. After so much time, even things that were made with a great design and a great artistic, vision are eventually going to look like, that hasn't aged well. Well, it's been 20-something fucking years, dude. But to me, it still looks great. The thing about this game is that it gave you such a sense of freedom. And I know the reason, now that I've analyzed it, I know the reason this was the second launch game for the N64. The N64 launched with Mario 64 and Pilot Wing 64. I know why they made this the second game to launch alongside Mario. Mario was the adventure, the action and all that, and it really showed off the power of the 64 and the three-dimensional graphics and all that. Pilot Wings was another type of tech demo to show the power of the 64 by showing you how massive they can make these worlds and how expansive they are and how you could go anywhere and explore everything and every little nook and cranny of these islands and give you the real sensation of flight, of being able to go up high, low, all around, and a variety of vehicles. But just to really give you that sense of freedom, like when you're playing the Birdman stages, that you have the wings and you could just fly around at your leisure with this fucking mellow ass saxophone music, bro, that I'm telling you, David Wise is a beast, and just actually go and explore all the little intricate details of whatever island you're on. The hotels, the ships in the water, the whale that comes out of the bay, the tennis courts, the airplanes, the golf course with the little flags, with the flagpoles coming out of the holes, and the flags all have the N64 logo on them. The castle on Holiday Island, and you see some of the characters from the game hang gliding around it. Shit like that, bro. It's the first of probably the first that I could recall of a certain genre of game that I think N64 kind of popularized, and it went on from there to games on other consoles that I love that we'll talk about, in another video, like Endless Ocean. Games where it's like, there's not necessarily a quest. This is about exploring and just going and seeing the beauty and the expansiveness, as I've said before, the immersiveness of this world that we created. That shit is dope to me, man, because I'm like, how real did they get? How much did they think of? And it's crazy the amount of shit that the amount of detail this game has, man. So, and the fact that you fly 3 different vehicles from hang glider to gyrocopter to the rocket belt, and then by getting gold or silver or gold medals in each one of those classes and each one of those tasks for those vehicles, you'll unlock bonus missions like the cannonball, where you get shot out of a cannon and try to hit a target. You'll get the skydive bonus, where you get to do skydiving and make formations in the air with the other players, and then plummet down to the island and open your chute and try to land on the target. You get the Jumbo Hopper that, bro, has like these spring-loaded boots on on your character, and you literally can jump like over buildings, bro. So you could jump across the United States or jump across the island. I mean, it's so fucking dope, man. It's such a free game, bro. And all the little details and secrets that are locked in each one of the worlds, man, that you get to discover at your heart's content, at your leisure. It's my favorite game of all time. I always go back to it, man. I have this game in so many different versions, it's not even funny. After that, we got Rampage World Tour. Now, Rampage World Tour is an arcade classic. It's one of those arcade games that you often saw in the arcades in the 90s, next to Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, all the games I mentioned before. And it's made by Midway, same company that makes Mortal Kombat and San Francisco Rush and I believe Cruising USA as well. I'm not sure about that. I got to double check that. But Rampage World Tour is just a fun arcade game. You play as one of 3 different monsters. And really the point of the game is to go from city to city across the world and just destroy the shit out of it. Eat people, destroy the buildings, blow up the military, and everything. It's just cause mayhem, bro. And it's so fucking fun. Playing it alone, it does get repetitive by the time you get to like the 35th city or something like that. But listen to what I just said. You play 35 levels, and that's when it starts to feel repetitive. You play it with a friend or two, and it's 2 or 3 of you going across the city, fighting with each other, trying to get the higher score, trying to destroy most stuff. Oh my god, this is an arcade gem, bro. Always go back to this one as well. Next, my favorite racer period on the N64. Got an amazing sequel on the GameCube. And because Nintendo's Nintendo, we ain't seen it since. Wave Race 64. This was my launch game for N64 in the Christmas of 96. This game, it blew my mind, bro. I never knew until I turned this on that Christmas morning that games could look this real. I mean, of course, today it doesn't look that real. Even the water doesn't look real anymore. I mean, it behaves real, but nothing looks real anymore. But back then, bro, this was 3-dimensional characters on fucking jet skis, racing at blistering speed, crashing through the goddamn waves, and the waves and water acting and affecting you like water would. Oh my god, dude. The music, iconic. The tracks, all of them. Sunny Beach. Sunset Bay, which is my favorite stage. Just that orange glow, that sunset and the orange water and all that, and the dolphins jumping in the background while you're rounding the corner. Marine Fortress, Drake Lake, Port Blue, Twilight City, Glacier Coast, Southern Island, all those fucking tracks. Awesomely designed. Each one with a shortcut or 2, depending on the difficulty you're playing on. You play against 3 other riders. So it's 4 of you on the track. You're trying to get first place, trying to advance in each circuit. There's also a stunt mode where you get points for doing the different stunts. There's a lot of stunts in the game, bro. From riding backwards to riding standing up to riding in a handstand to a submarine where you dive under, you jump up in the air and then you dive under the water for a few seconds. A barrel roll to either side when you go off a ramp. And a backflip or a double backflip if you have enough air when you go off a ramp. So cool. So fucking cool. It's got a 2-player split screen. Didn't do a 4-player. I want to say the Japanese version had 4-player split screen, if I remember correctly. But this one only had 2. But man, every time I go back to this game, every time, I never get bored of it. You guys saw how geek I was when they fucking brought it to Switch Online. I was playing it today at work on Switch Online. I love Wave Race. And it's just... Bro, it's such a novel concept. I mean, back then, it was so novel to be like, okay, this is a racer, but we're not using cars or even carts. We're fucking on jet skis, bro. Like doing the ultimate summer activity at blazing speed, fucking racing against other people, man. The fucking dolphin code that when you enter it, you get to ride on top of the dolphin instead of the jet ski. Oh, man. So phenomenal. Bro, Konami with Mystical Ninja starring Goldman. This game was a hidden gem for me. I remember I got this. My sister, I forgot for what reason, but my older sister was generous enough that she was going to buy me a game. I think I must have done good in school or something, and she was going to buy me a game. And she took me, and there was nothing that I really wanted at that time. Everybody was still waiting for Zelda for Ocarina of Time, and it wasn't out yet. And I saw this game, and the title Mystical Ninja, even though the cover art should have fucking tipped me off, I just saw the words Mystical Ninja, and I was like, maybe there's like a Shinobi or like a Ninja Gaiden. That could be cool. Let's get it. Bro, I popped this game in and got the shock of my life with a crazy, corny ass, but catchy as fuck opening theme song. Sung in Japanese, Japanese, with English subtitles. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I gave it a chance and I played it, bro. And this is one of the most enjoyable 3D action platformers with slight RPG elements I have ever played in my life. It's one of my favorite all-time games on the N64. I have the sequel, but the sequel is not that high on the list for me because I don't like the fact that they changed from the full 3D to like a 2.5D, and there's different gameplay mechanics. It's not bad. It's a fun game, but this was so epic, man. This takes you all across Japan. Actual Japanese landmarks like Mount Fuji are there, and then I forgot the name of the sea, but there's like a sea, the Japanese Sea or something. It's some ocean right by Japan that's featured in the game that you go and you explore. You get to play as 4 different characters. A group of them, you switch whenever you want to each one. Goldman, his partner Ibizumaru, a secret agent ninja, Ye, and then this mechanical ninja, a little robot named Sasuke. Bro, it's just a crazy, quirky, fun story, but the level design, the dungeons are awesome. The different powers each character gets are used brilliantly in puzzle solving to progress the story forward. And it's got great controls, man. Open, big scope, big world, fully 3D. I mean, I love it, man. I constantly go back to this, man. Got 3 more left. Star Fox 64. Nothing else need to be said. Summer of 97. This rocked the world. Introduced the Rumble Pack. So now you had force feedback in your hands. For the first time ever, you could feel what you were playing and what you were seeing on the screen. Fox and the crew never looked better. So much better than the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo game was revolutionary because it was doing 3D on a 16-bit cart, or at least mimicking 3D. But it was just all straight up polygons. Here, like, there's actual texture, there was actual facial features, there was actual detail on the ships. They weren't just triangles. You know what I'm saying? The world was more fleshed out. Enemy characters were better designed and more detailed. But it was really just a retelling of the Super Nintendo game. Since now they could actually do it the way they wanted, and with actual voice acting and speaking in the game instead of just text and gibberish, like a Super Nintendo, you actually had Peppy like, do a barrel roll, use the brake, whatever. You're like, oh, it was awesome, man. Great multiplayer mode too, bro. Oh my god. The multiplayer mode in this game was so addicting, bro. And the level, every single level, man, and the fact that you could play in the R-Wing and you could play in the Landmaster tank, if you got enough kills or went a certain route through certain levels, your path would change and you go to other levels instead of levels you would have gone to normally, and then you play as a submarine, the Blue Marine, in an underwater level, and like you have different paths that you could take through the story to get to the end. Short game, you could beat it in an hour and a half maybe, but it's so much fun, and it's the kind of game that invites replays. And, new playthroughs and multiplayer madness with your friends, man. So, Star Fox 64 is phenomenal. Next, Donkey Kong 64, another rare gem. This game has mixed reactions. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I've never really seen anybody that's in the middle. It's pretty much one extreme or the other. I happen to be one of the people that love it. Now, I do understand the complaint of the people that hate it. Their complaint is that Rare with this game didn't limit themselves. They didn't put boundaries on themselves, and they just went bananas, pun intended, with the collectathon nature of these 3D platformers. Like BanjoKazooie is an amazing collectathon, but it's got its restraints, so you're not collecting 100 different fucking things. I understand that. That is a gripe I do have with this game. There's far too many collectibles to collect in this game, and it's not like you just collect them for extra stuff. No, you need to collect them to actually get through the game. It's a long game, dude. It's a fucking heavy cart too. They packed a lot into this cart. You play as Donkey Kong, and I believe 4 to 5 other of his family: Lanky Kong, Tiny Kong, Diddy Kong, fucking. Well, who else is it? There's another Kong I'm missing. Whatever. There's like 5 of them. And each one has their own distinct color bananas they collect, their own distinct color coins they collect, their own distinct color blueprints they collect. I mean, shit, man. And then on top of that, you got to find the big golden bananas of each world, of which there's a shitload. But it's such a beautifully designed game. The worlds are so fun. Bro, Donkey Kong has never looked so good. It's in 3D, complete 3D, full 3D, 360-degree camera controls. Beautiful. Donkey Kong Island looks awesome. Bro. And it's expansion pack compatible too, which I think the expansion pack is necessary to play this game. You can't play it without it. So the resolution is up there. It's a fucking really well done 3D action platformer. It just has way too much shit going on at once. For that reason, I never beat it. I got really far into it, but to this day, as a grown ass man, I haven't beat it. I will one day because I'm constantly going back to it and making progress. So, but it's just a fun game, and it's got the typical Donkey Kong charm. Great music. Y'all seen that opening rap at the beginning of this game? DK Donkey Kong, the freaking the DK rap. What? That shit is hard, man. The first time I turned this game on, I saw it, I'm like, no fucking way. It's so good, bro. It's so good. But yeah, man, I constantly go back to it. The characters are designed beautifully. Art style is great. Enemy variety is great. World is open and expansive. A lot to see, a lot to explore, and a lot to my bad, I kind of spilled something here. A lot to go and experience. And some really good boss battles as well. So it's one I constantly go back to as well. And then last but not least, the original Turok, the Dinosaur Hunter. As I said before, a revolutionary first-person shooter at a time where not a lot of people had any faith that first-person shooters could be done successfully on a console. Everybody was of the mind that you need a PC, mouse, and keyboard to do that. And Turok was one of the games that showed otherwise. Bro, the first time I played this game, I believe I rented it first before I could get my hands on it and buy it. But man, from the moment you're dropped into that first world right off the bat, and you see the fog in the jungle, and you hear all the jungle noises and the monkeys and the birds, and then you see the first time you see a raptor charging at you in 3D, you're like, holy shit, bro. And then, the first couple enemies that come at you start shooting at you, and you just shoot one of them, and all of a sudden you just happen to hit them right in the neck, and you just see blood squirting across the screen, and them like holding their shit and then just dying slowly. All the different death animations, how fucking visceral and violent this game was, and how real it looked and how real it acted. Oh man, we were on some new shit when we popped this in for the first time. I was like, damn, this is fucking insane, bro. And the levels were expansive, huge. Like I said, you can get lost in them, but that's part of the fun, bro. Exploring, finding your way around. Oh no, shit, I've been here before. I got to go back this way. And it's not like a Metroid game in the sense back in the day, the 2D Metroids where it's like up, down, left, right. And I was like, oh shit, did I come from that direction or did I come from over there? Fuck. And then you start looking around and then you're finding new weapons. Just a great first-person shooter, man, with an epic story, epic final boss, the campaigner. I mean, the bosses in this game are all awesome. The giant mantis, there's a robotic T-Rex, there's a hunter that's riding around in a jeep trying to run you over, shooting in a 3D arena, and you gotta sidestep him and try to shoot him. And then the campaigner at the end, this big Shao Kahn looking motherfucker, dude, that all game long, you've been finding pieces of a certain weapon called the Chrono Scepter. And if you found all the pieces, you piece it all together, and it's like a nuke, and you use that to fight him because he's that powerful. Great ending, great fucking, just the epicness of the ending. It's a really short ending, but really epic. You're running out of that place as it's exploding. Oh man, the graphics in this game, the cinematics, the sound design, level design, all of it is top notch, man. So that is the top 20 N64 games I constantly go back to. As I said, bro, N64, I have 66 games for it physically. I have way more digitally, but so out of that, I couldn't just do a top 10. I had to do a top 20. I know right away people are going to say, why isn't Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time in that top 20? Because these are the physical games I go back to when I play. I don't have Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time physically. I used to. I traded it away when I was young, and I never bothered to get another card because I have it in 15 different formats digitally and on other consoles. So, but it definitely would be in my top fucking 5 on the N64. So don't get it twisted. But it's not on this list because it's not a game that I constantly go back to when I hook up my N64 because I don't physically have it. Is there any other game that's missing from the top 10 that people would be like, oh, it should be there? Most people would have it. I can't think off the top of my head, man. But these are the games that I straight up, swear to God, hand to God, these are games I constantly go back to, man. Constantly, bro. Because there's the nostalgia factor, and then there's the fact that they're just great fucking games, no matter whether nostalgia's involved or not. No matter what fucking decade you play them in, they are phenomenal fucking games, man. That just they're made well, they're designed well. Everything from sound, graphics, level design, as I said before, controls. And then you throw in the nostalgia part of it. I just remember how these games formed the person that I am, over time. So constantly go back to them, man. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. It's been a long one, bro. Almost pretty much an hour long. Now we're going to get into the top 10 for the next console, which I'll announce it in the video, so you're going to have to watch. God bless y'all. Stay gaming. Peace.